The moment my daughter said his name, I stopped breathing. I was standing at the kitchen counter, pouring my second cup of coffee, the kind of ordinary Tuesday morning when nothing bad is supposed to happen. She called at 7:43. I remember because the clock on the microwave was right in front of me. "Dad, I have news. Big news." She sounded happy, genuinely happy, the way she used to sound as a little girl on Christmas morning. And for a moment, just a moment, I let myself feel it with her. "Tell me," I said, "I'm getting married." I set the coffee mug down before I dropped it. "Sweetheart, his name is Derek Voss." The kitchen went quiet. Not the normal kind of quiet, the kind where the air. I knew that name. I knew it the way you know the smell of smoke before you see the fire. "Dad, you still there?" I steadied my voice the way I've had to steady my hands after 40 years of surgical work. Slow breath, even tone. Don't let her hear it. "I'm here," I said. "Tell me everything." My daughter is 31 years old. She works as a civil engineer, designs bridges, the kind of work that requires you to think 17 steps ahead and never trust anything you can't verify with your own measurements. She is not naive. She is not careless. She is the sharpest person I have ever known, and I say that as someone who spent 4 decades in operating rooms with some of the best minds in medicine. Which is why when she told me she was in love with Derek Voss, I didn't say a single word against him, because I knew that if I came at her with accusations, she would defend him. That's what smart people do when they love someone. They build a case for the defense without realizing they're doing it. So I said, "When do I get to meet him?" She paused, surprised. Maybe she'd been bracing for resistance. "Really? You're not going to grill me first?" "You're 31, I said. "I trust your judgment." A small lie delivered in service of a larger truth I needed time to find. We agreed on dinner the following Saturday. I had 6 days. I should tell you what I knew about Derek Voss and why that name hit me the way it did. 3 years earlier, my business partner and closest friend of 22 years, a man I'll call my friend because that's what he was, even after everything, came to me with a problem. He had invested a significant amount of his retirement savings into a private real estate venture. The man running it had approached him at a charity gala, well-dressed, well-spoken, plausible in every detail. The investment documents looked legitimate. The early returns were small but real, enough to feel trustworthy. The man's name was Derek Voss. By the time my friend understood what had happened, $240,000 were gone. Not stolen in any way that the police could immediately act on, because Voss had structured everything carefully. Legally gray, the kind of fraud that exists in the space between what's criminal and what's merely predatory. My friend spent 8 months trying to pursue it. He got back $11,000 through a civil settlement. He never fully recovered financially or otherwise. He retired early. He moved to his daughter's place in Tucson. Last time I talked to him, he seemed smaller than I remembered. I had never met Derek Voss in person, but I had read every document, sat with my friend through every meeting with his attorney, and listened to his described Voss detail. Charming, patient, very good at making you feel like you were the one doing him a favor by accepting his offer. And now this man was going to marry my daughter. I called my friend that same evening. "Tell me everything you remember about him," I said. "Physically, how he presents himself, how he talks." He told me. Then he was quiet for a moment. "Why?" "Because my daughter is engaged to him." The silence on the line lasted long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. "You need to be very careful," he said finally. "He reads people. He'll know if you're coming at him directly." "I know. Do you have anyone who can help you document this?" I did. My son-in-law, my older daughter's husband, works in financial compliance. He knows how to pull records that aren't visible to the average person. He knows what structures look like when someone is hiding money or maintaining multiple identities across business entities. I called him text. "I need a favor," I said, "and I need you not to say anything to your wife yet." He didn't hesitate. "What do you need?" Over the next 5 days, we built a picture. Derek Voss, 44 years old, had 3 business entities registered in 2 states, all of them structured as LLCs with minimal public footprint. One was dormant. One had been dissolved 18 months earlier following a complaint filed with the state attorney general's office. A complaint that had been settled quietly, with no admission of wrongdoing, for $60,000. The third was currently active, presenting itself as a property development consulting firm. He had a LinkedIn profile with impressive credentials from a university that, when my son-in-law dug a little deeper, had no record of him graduating. The degree listed, an MBA from a school in the Midwest, matched no record in their alumni database. He had been engaged before, twice. One engagement ended without a trace in the public record. The other ended with a restraining order that had since expired. The woman who filed it had moved out of state. None of this was something I could walk into a dinner with and lay on the table. Not yet. My daughter would see it as an attack. She would see me as a frightened old father who couldn't accept that she'd found someone. I needed him to show me who he was, in front of her. Saturday arrived the way difficult days always do, too quickly and with too much ordinary sunshine. I chose the restaurant, a place I know well, quiet, not trendy, the kind of place where conversations don't get lost in noise. I arrived 15 minutes early, the way I always do. I took a booth in the back, ordered water and waited. They came in together and I watched them from across the room before they saw me. My daughter was laughing at something he'd said. She was wearing the blue dress she saves for occasions that matter to her. He had his hand at the small of her back, not possessively, just present, the gesture of a man who knows how to perform attentiveness. He was good-looking in an unremarkable way, neat, confident without being loud about it. He smiled when he saw me, the smile already arranged before he reached table and extended his hand. "Sir, it's an honor. She talks about you constantly." I shook his hand. "Only the good parts, I hope." He laughed. "Easy, practiced. All of it," he said. "She's very proud of you." We sat. I studied him the way I used to study a patient's chart before an operation. Looking for the thing that didn't fit, he ordered for both of them without asking her what she wanted. Just turned to the server and did it smoothly, confidently, as if it were a kindness rather than a habit. My daughter didn't react. Maybe she was used to it. That bothered me more than anything else in the first 20 minutes. Dinner moved carefully. He was skilled at conversation. Asked me questions about my career, seemed genuinely interested, let me talk. Deflected gracefully when I turned questions back toward him. His own career was described in broad strokes: real estate consulting, good years and hard years, currently focused on a development project in the southeast. "What kind of development?" I asked. "Mixed-use residential. We're in the pre-capital phase right now, so I can't say too much, but the fundamentals are strong." Pre-capital phase. I'd heard my friend use those exact words when he described how Voss had explained the investment to him 3 years ago. I looked at my daughter. She was nodding, comfortable, believing. I picked up my water glass and kept my expression neutral. After dinner, while my daughter excused herself to use the restroom, Voss leaned back and smiled at me. The first real smile of the evening. The one that wasn't for an audience. "I know this is a lot," he said. "A father wants to protect his daughter. I respect that completely. I appreciate you saying so. I want you to know," he said, lowering his voice slightly, "that I understand how important your blessing is to her, and I'd like to earn that." He was good. If I hadn't known what I knew, I might have liked him. "I'm sure we'll find a way to get there," I said. 3 days later, my daughter called me. Her voice was different, tight, careful. "Dad, Derek told me about a conversation you two had at dinner." After I stepped away, I waited. "He said you made some comments about his background, that you implied he wasn't trustworthy." I replayed the dinner in my mind. I had said nothing of the kind. I had been deliberately carefully neutral. "What exactly did he say?" I said. She hesitated. "He said you told him that you'd done some research on him, and that you had concerns about his past that you were going to share with me." I had said none of that, not a word. "I didn't say that," I told her quietly. "Dad, I want you to hear me. I did not say that to him." Another silence. Longer this time. "He seemed really hurt," she said. "He said he's been trying so hard to make a good impression and he was blindsided." Something cold moved through me then. Not anger, exactly. More like recognition. He had sensed that I was a threat, and instead of waiting for me to act, he'd move first. He was poisoning the well before I could use it. "I understand," I said. "Can I have a few days before we talk more about this, Dad? I'm not asking you to fight about it. I know, I hear you. Give me a few days." I called my son-in-law that night. I told him what happened. "He's running the playbook," my son-in-law said. "Isolate the threat, reframe it as the threat being the problem." "Classic, I need something concrete," I said. "Something she can see with her own eyes." "The woman with the restraining order," he said. "I have a name. I've been hesitant to reach out because of privacy concerns, but if she's willing to talk, find out if she's willing. Her name was Adrian, and I will not share her last name here because she has the right to her privacy, and because what she gave me was an act of trust that I have no intention of violating." She agreed to a video call, just the two of us initially. She was quiet and deliberate in the way that people become when they have survived something and processed it and arrived at a place of hard-won calm. She told me her story without drama, without embellishment. She had met Voss at a fundraising event. They dated for 8 months. He had moved into her apartment. By month 5, he had access to her accounts, not because he'd demanded it, but because she had offered it, naturally, in the course of a life being lived together. By month 7, $14,000 had migrated out of her savings through a series of small transfers to a joint account that he controlled. When she tried to confront him, he had turned it entirely around on her, told her family she was unstable, showed up at her workplace twice. The restraining order had been the only language he understood. "Does he know you're in contact with me?" she asked. "No, be careful," she said. "He'll find a way to explain this away. He always has an explanation." She agreed to write a brief, factual account of what had happened, signed and dated for me to use as I needed. I asked my daughter to meet me for coffee, just the two of us, on neutral ground, a place near her office that she likes. She came in looking tired, which told me more than anything she could have said. She was carrying it. The discomfort of being caught between people she loved, the effort of trying to hold a clean line. I didn't start with Adrian's statement. I started with my friend. I told my daughter the story I should have told her the moment she first said his name. I told her about the investment, about the documents, about the $240,000, about my friend's retirement, about the settlement that returned cents on every dollar. She was very still. "Why didn't you tell me right away?" she asked. "Because I knew you'd defend him, and I needed you to see it for yourself first." "Dad, She stopped. "I know how that sounds. I'm telling you now because there's more." I laid out what my son-in-law had found. The dissolved LLC, the complaint with the Attorney General, the credential that didn't match any alumni record. Then I placed Adrian's statement on the table. She read it slowly, once, then again. "He told me she was unstable," she said quietly, "that she had made accusations before against other people." "She hasn't," I said. "I checked. My daughter sat with the papers in her hands for a long time. He said you came at him at dinner," she said, "that you implied things." "I know what he said, and I know what I actually said." She looked up at me then, and I watched the specific process of a sharp mind working through a problem it doesn't want to solve. Weighing, testing, looking for the crack in the structure. "I need to talk to him," she said. "I know, I'm not saying I believe you over him automatically. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to look at what's in front of you. I won't tell you what happened in their conversation because I wasn't there, and I don't believe I have the right to her private moments. What I can tell you is that she asked him directly about my friend by name. She had done her own searching, overnight before she met with him. She'd found the original complaint filing in the Attorney General's database. Public record available to anyone who knows where to look. He had an explanation. Of course he did. My friend had been a disgruntled investor who didn't understand market risk. The settlement was a business decision, not an admission. The accusations were old. She asked him about the MBA. He said the school had changed their records system and there were gaps in the alumni database. A clerical issue. She asked him about Adrian. He said exactly what my daughter had told me he'd already said, that she was unstable, that she had a pattern. And my daughter, my brilliant, careful, methodical daughter who designs bridges and checks her load tolerances twice, said to him, "I looked up the restraining order filing. Your name is on it, so is hers. And the timeline she described matches things you told me yourself about that period of your life. The dates, the location, everything matches." He had no new explanation for that. She ended the engagement that evening. She called me the next morning. Early. "I feel stupid," she said. "Don't, I'm an engineer. I check everything." "He's had a lot of practice," I said. "He's very good at this. How long did you know?" "Since the night you called me." I paused. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you immediately. I was afraid of losing you in the process of trying to protect you." She was quiet for a moment. "That's very you," she said finally, and there was something in her voice that wasn't quite warmth but was close to it. "Are you all right?" I asked. "No," she said honestly, "but I will be. There's something I've been thinking about since all of this happened, something I want to put into words carefully because I think it matters. My daughter is not someone who needed rescuing. She would have found her way to the truth eventually. I believe that completely. What I provided was time. I shortened the window between the deception and the discovery, and in doing so, I hope I saved her from the kind of damage that takes years to repair. But I also made a mistake in those first days, and I think it's worth naming. I chose strategy over honesty. I calculated instead of trusting her with the full picture from the beginning. I was right that she might have defended him if I'd come out swinging immediately, but I also might have been wrong about that, and I'll never know. She is stronger than I gave her credit for in that first week. We talked about it later, weeks after, when enough distance had settled between us and the events. She said she understood why I'd done it the way I had. She also said she wished I'd told her sooner, even knowing the risk. I said I would remember that. What Derek Voss counted on, what men like him always count on, is that love creates a kind of static that makes it harder to hear anything else. And he's not entirely wrong about that. Love does that. It's not a weakness, it's just how love works. The mistake is in thinking that static is permanent. My daughter could hear through it. She just needed a signal strong enough to cut through. My friend is doing better. He started a small consulting practice out of Tucson, nothing like what he had before, but he seems lighter when I talk to him now. He called me after I told him what had happened. He didn't say much. Just, "Good. I'm glad she's okay." My son-in-law's wife, my older daughter, found out eventually. She wasn't upset that we'd kept her out of it. She understood. She brought a casserole to her sister's apartment the week after, the kind of gesture that doesn't require any words. My daughter is doing the work now. Therapy, good friends, the ordinary rebuilding that follows when something you believed in turns out to be constructed entirely of lies. She's still at her firm. She's still designing bridges. She told me last month she's starting a new project, an overpass in a county up north, her biggest so far. I told her it sounded like something worth being proud of. She laughed, really laughed, the way she used to before any of this happened. I've held on to that. If you're watching this and you see something in someone your child loves, something that doesn't sit right, something that the logic of ordinary life can't quite explain, trust that feeling. Don't lead with fear. Don't lead with ultimatums. Lead with patience, with evidence, with love steady enough to hold its shape even when it isn't welcome. The people who manipulate for a living are counting on your silence, on the fear of being wrong, on the distance between what you know and what you can prove. Close that distance, take your time, and don't stop.